life choices that propel you towards the end result or not. So that was pretty interesting.
That's cool.
We are live, buddy.
I keep seeing stereo, and I was like, oh, this is cool.
On that Twitcher Twario thing.
We're on that dang Twitch. We're on that dang Twitch.
Twitch is never gonna take off, come on.
Ninja who?
So right now, that name will be mentioned later.
Yeah.
We are here for making Twitter work for you. And every once in a while, somebody hears the name panel and gets up and walks out because they realize they're in the wrong room. So very quickly, if you have your phone in your pocket, please make sure that the ringer is off or the volume is down so that you don't have an interruption. Thank you very much. My name is Kirk Dugal. I'll be the moderator today. What we'll do is we'll start with some questions up front, and then towards the end, we will open up to you guys for questions. So if we can, keep them until then. If it's something that's really pertinent, just for that second, we could probably sneak one in or two. Okay, Gregory, so
Sure.
lab.
So my name is Gregory Wilson. I am a professor of English at St. John's University in Queens, New York. I teach courses in fantasy, science fiction, creative writing, and others. Also an author, novels and short stories in various places. Just had a novel turned into a graphic novel, which is going to be published by Athos Arts. That was on Kickstarter about 3 weeks ago. My Twitch community was a huge part of getting that over the line. And earlier in the year, this, Tales and Tomes from the Forbidden Library, was Kickstarted very successfully also by Alligator Alley Entertainment. And I run a campaign for Alligator Alley Entertainment, a sponsored campaign of their game Esper Genesis, which I run on my Twitch TV channel. I host that Twitch TV channel under the moniker Arvin Eleron. I have 3 sponsored campaigns, multiple other campaigns and tabletop stuff that I do over on that channel, which I've been running for 7 years now. And I also run a podcast called Speculate, which started out as looking at just generally books and fiction and so forth, and now has changed into an actual play podcast. And I play with a number of authors and friends of mine in the community, and some of that gets crossover with Twitch as well.
I am Toya Kristen Finley. I am a writer and editor in general, and I am also a game designer, a narrative designer, and a game writer. I co-authored a book on narrative design called The Game Narrative Toolbox, and then I edited and contributed to the only book dedicated to storytelling in mobile and social games, which is Narrative Tactics for Mobile and Social Games, Pocket-Sized Storytelling. I am not a streamer, but I am a consumer of content creators. And I am also currently scheming to find ways to make streaming work for me.
Well, I can recommend a book for you. Man, I'm struggling to be able to be cool enough to be on this panel. My name is T. Morris, and no kidding, this is really a thing. Twitch for Dummies. I am its author. This is my love letter to Twitch. I won't lie, it started off as a cash grab because I wanted to upgrade my studio and I wanted to go to Germany for my 50th birthday. I did both, but halfway through I was like, I'm really digging this. And this isn't my only book with the For Dummies people. I also did podcasting for dummies. And I also am I have a contributing chapter in YouTube for Dummies Junior. And I go on twitch.tv/the T Monster, as you heard earlier. I go on there and I do a lot of Destiny. Destiny is my jam, so much in fact that I have a podcast called Happy Hour from the Tower. It's me and a couple of my knucklehead friends, and we just talk about how much we love playing Destiny. On occasion, we get really lucky and we get the voice of Failsafe, we get Amanda Holliday, we get Sloan to come on our podcast and just chat with us, which is kind of cool. And right now we are streaming. Hi everybody, right now we are streaming. And the fact that we're here and we're talking about Twitch, and I pitched this to Gencon and they said yes, I am thrilled. And Kirk, welcome to Twitch, buddy.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, bring the old man along, that's okay.
That's a good.
Well, we'll start here. Yeah, we're close.
Yeah.
So we'll start here, and Toya actually kind of alluded to this a little bit. Twitch for you right now, for pleasure and business, or is it considered right now an integral tool in your tool belt for your businesses and for your careers right now? Right.
I mean, it's always a pleasure to do it, but it is absolutely an integral tool. In fact, it is probably the two best things that I've ever done for my writing career are this, panels at conventions, and the second thing is Twitch. When I got started with Twitch, I did it actually in late 2011 because I was looking for something as background while grading final exams, which are not always the most fascinating thing in the world to do. And so Skyrim had just come out, and I found this guy on this forum. I was looking up stuff that I would do after I was done grading final exams. And this guy, Catabasis, had posted this thing about, come watch me do this full death rule set of Skyrim on Twitch. I was like, what the hell is Twitch? And I had never heard of it before, and I went over and I was absolutely fascinated by a group of people that are global, that were diverse, that were different ages, genders, all ethnicities, religions, all these things that had come together around the experience of watching this particular game, and not just watching the game, because I had a hard time with that at first. Like, why would a gamer want to watch someone else play a game?
That is the biggest question.
Yeah, but it was about the community, and I am fully convinced that what Twitch has been able to do successfully in places that YouTube gaming has failed at, in places that I suspect Mixer will fail at, but we'll see. A lot of what they've been able to do is create this sense of communities, these groups of communities that exist so that you feel identified with a larger group. And being able to do that has been enormously valuable to my career. When we came into the end of this Icarus Kickstarter, it was very tight. We were probably behind going into our last day, and I thought there was a good chance we might not fund. And we ended up making over $3,500 in that final day because I did a streamathon where I had these different RPGs, systems. At every $500 you hit in the Kickstarter, you would switch up systems. So you would keep the same characters but change systems entirely, from D&D 5th edition to the Warren, where everyone plays rabbits, to City of Mist, where you're in war, and it was great, and people loved it, and it was a chance for the community to rally behind it. And it was a community member that I had met originally on Twitch that sort of, that put us over, with a very large pledge at the end, and they were excited and there was buzz. I have never done anything better. I have a nonfiction project actually that I'm working on about this too. And so I think Twitch has become enormously important to building a platform and a brand, and I think I was doing it before a lot of authors who then came and started doing it themselves started doing it. And so I played with a number of authors now, Kat Rambo, Carlos Hernandez, and Nala Motar, and many others, and a lot of professional voice actors and everyone else. So it's been hugely valuable for me in every respect.
So it started as business for me, and now it's kind of a mix of business and pleasure. I discovered Twitch because I would follow some YouTubers over to their Twitch channels, and I started watching Let's Players as a form of research, because a lot of people who work in games don't have all that much time to actually play them. And there are also just certain types of games that I don't enjoy playing, but I need to know about them. And so I would watch streamers because I want to see them play, but two, there are some streamers who are really good at talking about what they like and what they don't like as they're playing. And from like a game design and a narrative design point of view. So I want to hear what players like and what they don't like and what's working and what's not working. So that's how I got there. Now it's become kind of both, because there are certain streamers that I enjoy, and I'll just watch them for entertainment. Or when I need background noise, I'm the type, when I'm working, I can't have music, because I start to visualize and think about stuff, and it's not quite daydreaming. But if I have somebody talking in the background, that helps me work. So there's, so I put on streamers in the background. It might sound horrible, but it works for me.
A lot of people do that.
Right.
No,
and so now you alluded to it, like you were working on your Kickstarter, but at some point I'm going to have a Kickstarter campaign for a visual novel that I want to do, and a couple of the artists that I've talked to, one's going to be the character artist, one the background artist, they're streamers too, and I don't think people realize that there are things that go on besides video games on Twitch.
Oh yeah.
And both artists stream on Twitch. They'll do their work on Twitch.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to look to maybe, with the character artist, go on a stream with her and collaborate with her, with the main character, as a way to, advertise, by visual novel.
Yeah, the creative section of Twitch is hugely, is blown up hugely now. Writing, dance, sculpture, music, enormous now. Yeah. For sure.
Sorry, talking to chat.
Right about the chat. I'm looking at it as I'm about to host it.
Yeah. Thank you, man. Thank you. I appreciate that. So, how it started with me was I was playing Destiny, and I was getting most of my news about what was coming down the pike from what was coming up for the game and everything from Twitch. Destiny said Bungie, the developers behind Destiny, said we're about to go live. We're going to do X, Y, Z. We're going to talk about what's coming down for the next season. And I believe this was right after the Taken King had dropped. So this was Rise of Iron, and that's all. I was very hesitant about Twitch because, as Kirk can attest, I'm one of the old farts. It's okay. New to Twitch, but that happens all the time. It happened to me during a meeting with my kids' conductor. Suddenly Twitch went live for me, and and Pip's like, "Shut it off!" I'm like, "What?" Anyway, as I was saying, so I'm one of the old farts of content creation. I'm the first guy to take a novel and podcast it from cover to cover. And I've seen video streaming in its early days when it took a lot of bandwidth to do and nobody could handle it. So when a friend of mine was trying to get me into Twitch, I was like, I'm not on board. I'm just not on board. Until I saw Bungie do it. And I thought that was fascinating. And then, right after the Bungie feed concluded, that was when I went back and I saw there was this little column that said, if you like Bungie, you'll also like, and it suggested a few other streamers. They were all playing Destiny 2. So I clicked on one just to see what was happening. And I was completely blown away. It was gamers reaching out to their communities going, hey, who needs to get a lighthouse run done? Let's do a flawless trials. Or hey, who wants to do a raid? Who wants to do this? Who wants to do that? And I was one of those people that said, why would I want to watch someone play a video game? But then I became part of the whatever it was they were doing. I then started following somebody else. I subbed to somebody. I was starting to get really into the Destiny community. And I remember many of them said, if you want to stream, give it a shot. All you have to do is go into your PS4 and click this, do this, you got it. And I wondered, could I really do this? So I went on ahead, and one night I just hit broadcast, and I would forget that I was on. I would forget that I had to talk to my chat. I made a whole lot of mistakes that reminded me of the early days of podcasting, and suddenly it was 2005 again, and I was stumbling my way through a brand new platform. Yep. When Destiny 2 dropped, that was when I said, I'm going to be an early morning streamer, and I'm going to do this on a consistent level. And thanks for the lurk. Thanks for the lurk, by the way, Devil. I just was on a consistent level going in, and next thing I knew, I had one viewer, then I had 3 regular viewers, and I'm seeing my follows starting to go up. It's a slow process. And after about a year of streaming, I started hearing not one, but several streamers go, yeah, it'd be nice if we had a Twitch for Dummies book. And I was just like, okay, so I contacted Wiley Publishing. I said, would you be interested in this? And a few months later, they said, let's do it. And I wrote Twitch for Dummies. I'm still streaming, and I'm what I would call a variety streamer. Yeah, I've primarily focused on Destiny, but on occasion, if I can, I will play BioShock or Lara Croft or something different on Fridays. I've also done. I'm also taking my streams. I got my wife who really didn't want to stream. She is now a natural at it. I've got her streaming God of War on Fridays, and if you don't think it is entertaining to watch a 5-foot Kiwi smash things with a Leviathan axe, let me tell you something. That is some entertaining shit right there. Okay. We also do the Shared Desk, which is our podcast. We now stream that. Happy Hour from the Tower, we stream as well. It started off as just something I wanted to explore. Now it's part of my marketing. It's part of my marketing arsenal. It is part of the way I reach out to people. It is also fun as hell. And I've been trying to stream from Gencon, and I'm really hoping this time it's going to work.
So far, so good. Looks good.
Well, both you and Greg mentioned something that I think needs to be highlighted, and that's the anxiety that developers have over people playing their games to wide audiences, and now nobody's going to want to play my game. No, it is one of the greatest marketing tools that you can have, because a lot of times you don't want to sink $60 or even $20 into something if you don't know what it's like.
Right.
And you see somebody else playing, it's like, yeah, that looks pretty cool. And especially if it's a longer game, or if it's a game with a lot of branching narrative and there are a lot of different outcomes, you know, streamers probably aren't going to see 20% of the game.
Right.
And there have been a lot of cult hits made because people have streamed them.
Yeah.
Five Nights at Freddy's became a phenomenon because I think it started mostly on YouTube at that point, but you had these big names playing the game getting scared to death, and then it became a phenomenon. Undertale was another one that got really big because there were lots of people streaming it. And so now even one thing that publishers do for developers is they reach out to content creators and get them to play the games. So, you know, if you're looking to stream, think about reaching out to indies and saying, hey, could I get a key from Steam so I can play this?
There's a game that I've reached out to a developer. It's called Soul, and I would describe it as the next Myst, only not as annoying, and way more zen. And I just said, when you guys are ready to go live, contact me, contact my buddy Blind Gamer Steve. We would love to play this on Twitch. So,
What's it called?
Sorry?
What was that called?
Soul. S-O-L-E from Gossamer Games. I met these guys at MagFest, and
Gossamer Games just sounds like it's in.
oh, it's incredible. I'll tell you about it later.
Yeah, I've interviewed many people, developers and so forth on my channel. I have multiple sponsored campaigns. I stream also over at Good Old Games channel now called GOG. So I stream for them. I have, and a lot of those people that I've met and people that ultimately that I ended up, you know, working with in some capacity. So I did I did an event from Harebrained Schemes Studios when they were releasing Shadowrun Hong Kong, and the people that did it, including Tremaine Sparks, is a good friend of mine, is a voice actor. He's a wonderful voice actor, and he did Duncan Wu, one of the characters, live. As a consequence of that, Harebrained Schemes loved him, and so he is now the voice of the big bad guy in BattleTech. So Tren also is narrating my book. So I mean, there's a lot of good things that Tren is amazing anyway. But that sort of thing happens all the time on Twitch in an organic way because it's a combination of community building and also sort of, you know, yes, marketing, you know, putting yourself out there in a way that you would probably enjoy doing anyway. I like to think that I'm a storyteller and a community builder. It's what I try to do in general. This is an enormously valuable tool in making that happen.
Before the next question here, just for the group out here, if you could please, if you're a viewer on Twitch, raise your hand. Keep them up. How many of you are producing content then too? Okay, a few.
You count, honey. You count. Granted, I make you produce content. A quick story about my wife in the back. She was like, I don't know if I want to stream. But like 10 minutes into the stream, she's like, chat, this is what I have to deal with. She's mugging to the camera. I'm like, what have I created?
So, especially for, let's say, writers who are just trying to use this as a tool, okay? What are a good set of goals, especially at the beginning, when you're coming on for the first time, or at least for the first 6 months, or whatever that would be on Twitch? What would be a good set of goals?
So, I'm gonna lead with this because I still struggle with it, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that my schedule is constantly changing because I have a day job. I lost what I thought was the best day job I've ever held, mainly because I was telecommuting. So I could get up early in the morning and like every day stream. Well, that changed because my stream has a sort of a fluctuating schedule. I don't have the numbers that I wish I had. And you got to contend with the numbers. You have to deal with the numbers, which really sucks about Twitch. And nothing's more disheartening than watching your viewership go like 15, 8, 5, 3, 0. And I got news for you. You do not change the way you stream if you're streaming in a vacuum. Whether it's 0, whether it's 10,
Right.
whether it's 10,000,
Right.
you stream like your heart is in it, because if you're not having a good time, your audience isn't going to have a good time. And I have terrified new people they are convinced I am on some kind of narcotic, and I promise you, it's just caffeine. The only person that's getting drugs is our rescue cat, because he needs them. Apart from that, I'm just having a really good time, and I've had more people say, yeah, T's not the best gamer, but man, is he having a good time. And that's the thing, whether it's 0 or whether it's 1,000 people watching you, you always stream like it is the best stream you've ever had. You're gonna have good streams, you're gonna have bad streams, but the important thing is to get back on and stream and have fun.
So I've got a really quick question about that, if I can jump in.
No, please.
Because when you're just starting out, you're going to have to find an audience. You're not going to automatically have one. Do you get a sense at some point what your audience really, like, you want to remain true to who you are, your personality, your point of view, but you're going to start to figure out what your audience responds to and what they don't respond to. And so do you start making adjustments to your content based on that?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I don't think so. It's a bit of a dance, because there are parts of your content that you would like to stream that will work better than other parts of your content that you would like to stream. But if it comes to chasing wherever the audience might theoretically be, I think that doesn't work. In fact, no, it doesn't work. I think you need to establish a brand. I think you need to establish, I'm going to be talking about this in a talk later on that I'm going to give here about networking. You need to establish a brand anyway, which is consistent across platforms. And so for me, I'm a storyteller, and a lot of what I do on my Twitch channel is about story and narrative-based games. So I do a lot of RPGs, and I've already talked about all the tabletop that I do. And I also talk about my writing quite a bit, and do some writing myself on stream, even some drafting and stuff like that on stream. And so those are all things that people know when they come to me. I don't want people coming to me expecting Fortnite, because they're not going to get it, and I don't want those people. And that's not that I think they're bad people, it's just that we're not going to be in sync with each other. Unless they're coming to me because they do like Fortnite, but they also like to talk about writing, in which case, hey, I'm your guy. And I, so I think one of the things you have to do initially, to come back to tie these two things together, to establish a goal, is to initially build a presence. And I actually think it's a good idea to spend the first couple of months on Twitch, not with your own channel. I think it's a good idea to actually get to know another channel that you connect with in the way that you've described. Because what I ended up doing was I became a moderator for this channel, and over time I gathered some people together so that when I started streaming in April 2012, I had, and my first stream was awful because I didn't know what I was doing technically. It was Legend of Grimrock. Great game, terrible stream though, because I just did not know what I was doing. But I had like 7, 8 people right off the bat because they knew me from this other channel, and that was my base that I then built upon, because I had writers that knew me, and that I had other connections from people doing conventions and so forth, and I was able to sort of develop over time. But I very strongly believe that you need to establish who you are, and everything flows down from the top. It means that you will get a lot fewer trolls. It means you'll get a lot more people that understand the community that you're trying to put together. It means that you'll have people who genuinely care about each other. My community, as I mentioned, my name is Arvin Eleron, which is a character from my first novel on Twitch, and so my chat sort of gently calls themselves the Arvanauts, which I think is really cool. And and no joke, like they are people who have gotten to meet each other in real life, who know each other, who find that what I've done has moved them in some way, and they've come to me because they know what I offer them, which is hopefully a community, a person who cares, and something about education and about storytelling. And people who come in who are not about that and want to throw out a bunch of memes and swear are banned, because I don't want that type of person. I want a safe space for the people that really care about each other to be. So I think that you need to establish who you are, and people will come to you.
Well, one of the really great things about Twitch is the sense of community, and you were talking about moderating on somebody else's channel first, and I'm guessing that when you set up your channel, you had a lot of people hosting you.
That's it, yeah.
And of course,
sure.
I don't know if you guys caught it, but one thing Greg says, oh yeah, I'm hosting your stream to me.
Yeah. And I just have one of my viewers right now, Shadow Mages and Arvanite. Yes, you are, Shadow.
Yeah.
You started streaming because of my Twitch number. Oh yes, I know who this is. Who's saying? So,
and that's
maybe in this room,
right?
And
and that is also a challenge. Is that's another big challenge when you're starting off. Is that you need to find a way to monitor your chat at the same time you're doing whatever you're doing on Twitch.
Yeah.
And if it's playing a video game, it gets even tougher. because you're trying to focus on what to get done in the video game while you're still interacting with chat. In fact, last time I gave a talk on Twitch, someone said, I'm having a tough time responding to chat and giving them the proper attention while giving attention to the game. How do I fix this? And I just looked up and said, welcome to Twitch, baby. Because that's the biggest challenge, is just trying to find that balance. Going back to what was said earlier, though, about well, if I want to start streaming, should I go ahead and start with Fortnite, or should I start with Overwatch, or should I start with what's popular in the top 10? No. You want to find the game that you want to play,
right, because
that passion will come through. And that's what I started with, was Destiny. Now I'm streaming Destiny. I had just finished BioShock. I'm now working into Rise of the Tomb Raider. I just saw a promo today for the Blair Witch Project video game. I think people want to see me pee my pants on stream, so I probably will be.
Are you going to take your camera and just do this a lot?
Yeah, I'm going to get up to I'm going to do this. I'm going to go, I'm sorry, I'm so scared.
I mean,
your wife, when you keep mentioning, probably really wants to see you at your pants.
Oh, what she's gonna do, she's gonna dangle those freaking stick figures in the doorway while I play. Anyway, but the one thing that I will say that you wanna do is, if you wanna be a variety streamer, because there are other streamers who say find that niche and stay with it. It's like, if you want to branch out. I mean, I've done plenty of just me chatting, talking about content creation. I put up images of the Twitch for Dummies book and the Podcasting for Dummies book, and I say, if you've got a question about podcasting, I don't care how basic it is, have at. Let me, because you're talking to the guy that wrote the book. I'm there to answer your questions. And I've had people have, back and forth. And then, and the other thing about, and I've got to mention him because he just popped up in chat. There's this one streamer who, he really is kind of my go-to guru when it comes to streaming. His name is ZG Photo, and I recommend you watch his stream. He started off as a Destiny streamer. Now he is a Sea of Thieves streamer, and his speciality is tucking, which means he tucks his character inside someone else's boat, and he waits to see how long it takes for them to find him. And he's really good at it. But ZG taught me. He's taught me ways of how to interact with chat. He taught me a lot about Destiny, and he's taught and I've had the pleasure of meeting him and finding out that there are things that you want to keep to yourself, and that's more than okay. Just if there's a limit where I will stream up to this point.
And we're going to talk about security and safety.
And then there's the stuff beyond that. And I'd like to think that Z and I, after we met, I found out a lot more about Z, the person, than I did as the personality. And I really appreciate you being here, Z. Thanks a lot. When you're starting off, though, once you find your brand, it'll come. It's not going to come straight away.
Right.
You gotta, first you'll find the game or the topic that you want to talk about. There are people that do cosplay now on here. Mm-hmm. There are people that do writing sessions. Okay. And it's amazing how far the net goes now, and it's fun to watch. You might not think it is, but trust me, it's fun to give it a shot.
So I am watching your chat. Greg, you've mentioned branding. We've talked a little bit about community. What types of things do you do to keep that sense of community or grow on it? Because I know that you have customized emotes, things like that. You said your community came up with its own nickname.
I call these guys the morning monsters because we get up in the morning, so it's the morning monsters. Yeah.
So what are things that you do that builds that sense of community, or to facilitate it?
So I'm sorry. I got it because Z is actually doing it right now. Z is actually sponsoring a Michigan meetup. That's one way of building the community. He's basically given a call out to people. He's asked if I was going to be there, but the problem is it's the week after this. Yeah. I'm going to need to recover. but it's like either this week, next weekend, or the weekend after. Z is hosting a meetup, and he's got people coming in from all across the country because they're like, Z's having a meetup, let's go. And it's like a mini convention based around his gaming and the games that he's done and the streams that he's done, and you can find out more about that on his channel. That's one way.
So there are multiple other ways. Actually, Shadow just posted a bunch of the emotes from my channel. Good man. There are a number of ways. One thing is to be able to do events that are explicitly reaching back out to viewers. So every other month I do a Dungeons & Dragons with viewers session where I run an adventure, and viewers, as long as they have a webcam and a microphone and a willingness to commit 3 or 4 hours, can play D&D with me. And oftentimes if they miss it, they're like, oh, God damn it, like I've gotta get this and mark it down in the calendar. So that's one thing. Having a regular schedule, I understand it's not always possible, but having a regular schedule really helps. And having it as a calendar, I have a Google Calendar that I update every month because I stream basically about 3 days a week. As the channel is gaining more content, and we're streaming now on other days that I don't have to directly be involved with, it's just being hosted on my channel, that expands the offerings for people. But people need to be able to know if I come, Friday, Saturday, or whatever the days are that you stream, that you're going to be there, and that helps. The other thing I would say is being able to do events that you are working on together for some other purpose is helpful. So for the last 4 or 5 years, I've run a charity event called ARVCon, which is it takes place over Memorial Day weekend, and it is to benefit the Damon Runyon Cancer Research Foundation. I lost my mother to breast cancer, and many other family members and friends have been affected by it. So we started running this a few years ago after my dog passed away from cancer, and I was just feeling really angry. I'm like, I'm so tired of feeling helpless in the face of this. And I was like, well, let me go do something about it. And so we mobilized the platform to bring it together. So we now have raised almost $10,000, $2,000 this year, $3,500 last year. Every year we're able to raise a certain amount of money, which has live tabletop events. There are giveaways. We now have corporate sponsors, Harebrained Schemes and Nomad Studios, and a bunch of other folks give away game codes. And most importantly, the community comes together to collectively try to contribute to be a part of this. And I have a professional photographer on here, his name is Rock God on Twitch, who donated this, the last 2 games has donated these amazing photo tintypes of like a lighthouse. He's a professional photographer and prints it onto this metal sheet, which is it's unbelievable, and it's worth hundreds of dollars, and he donates it so that it can be given to the top donator to this event. I have never asked for that. I've never said to anyone, can you please give me some things? If they're a company, but not an individual, I've never done that. The individuals come to me. I had another one who made custom pens, and he was like, can I make a custom pen to give away to this stuff? This is all part of community building, and it's something which is organic, and I think it happens because they feel connected to all of us collectively. And so that's another way to do it as well, I think. Really, a lot of it is just being present with the community and recognizing that we're all sort of contributing to something which is larger. And that is, in a world that is dominated by individual sort of selfish desires, I think community is the corrective for that. I'm convinced that it is, and I've seen it happen in my channel and many others like that.
And just saying hi to people when they
Sure.
come in. I'm seeing a lot of your, I'm sorry, say it again.
The Arvanauts.
The Arvanauts. I'm seeing a lot of Arvanauts pop into my stream, and they're all talking and saying hey to each other, and I'm just like, this is so freaking cool.
Yeah.
It never gets old.
It never gets old. Yeah.
So
And-
since we're, I'm sorry.
No, good.
So since we are talking about writing then too, and T brought this up, it's not just gaming. Okay, I know of one author who literally gets on and all they talk about is what was happening with his work in progress
Sure.
this week.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about how we can find ways to marry writing, not just gaming, but writing with your Twitch channel.
I literally do creative writing streams where I draft parts of books and short stories that I'm working on, and I will do that directly for them. I also now have, in addition to my Twitch, because I'm an affiliate, so I get people can subscribe to my channel, which means that they get to use certain custom emotes and so forth, and I get a cut of the money that they give to Twitch. I also have a Patreon, which I talked about here a couple days ago, and that Patreon allows me to, if you support it at a certain level, I will write a character background for them. So, or I will do like an epic poem about them or something like that. It's good practice for me, it's relatively fast, and it, again, connects them directly to what it is that I'm doing on the channel. And those people then go and buy my books, you know? I mean, I didn't start out going, aha, this is my long play.
Yeah.
But it's the effect of what happens is that they go and they buy, you know, stuff that I do. So I do creative writing drafting streams. I'll go to an undisclosed Starbucks, often on Fridays, and I will, you know, be writing away, and I will have chat in one window. And I was worried that I was going to get distracted by that. I actually find that it helps focus me, because in a lot of ways people will ask a particular question about, you know, it's interesting that you're dealing with this POV, like, what do you think about that? And I'm like, well, you know, and we'll go back and forth about stuff like that. it's almost like having a dialogue about one's writing process. Now, I don't do that all the time. I don't do it for probably 70% of my writing is not done that way, but there's a good 30% of it that is, and it again ties people into what they come to me for, which is storytelling. So I do it directly, and I found it's very valuable for that reason.
So are you using anything besides?
What I do is I talk about the pros and cons of content creation. I also lean less on the creative aspect of writing, and I go more into the business aspect of writing. Because one of the things I've seen a lot of authors do on Twitch, and I just want to make sure that I'm not that I don't have that happen, is I sometimes find that creatives, not just writers but artists as well. There's one artist I follow here. Her name is Dawn McTeague. She's a comic book artist, and I asked her, "Do you accept ideas from your chat about stuff for the work? I mean, have you ever said, instead of blue eyes, what about giving green eyes?" And she goes, "Yeah, I do that, but in the end, I have to remember that I'm the one making the final decision.
That's
I'm
right.
not designing by, I'm not
Right.
doing creation by committee."
Twitch
right?
plays book writing is not.
Exactly, yeah. But at the same time, it also makes the solitary feel of being a writer
Yeah.
less solitary, because your content's, your chat's there. Now, what I do though is that since I haven't done a creative stream yet, I have done stuff about the business. It's like, okay, so you've got your short story. Now, what do I do with it? And then I've also done things like readings. I've done readings, and I've talked about. People go, "Where do you get the voices from?" And I go, "That's movies. Watching lots and lots of movies." And then I talk about how do I come up with an impression? What am I listening for? Things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And going into doing that also, it plays back to my brand, because people know me for my readings. People know me that when it comes to being creative, I look at creativity also just as seriously. I take my love of writing just as seriously as my love of the business behind writing, because it is a love. You got to be passionate about it, or you don't get stuff done. And so I talk about those issues as well. And it's been and those feeds have been great. I need to do those more. But I'm also right now grinding for certain seals in Destiny 2. For those of you who have played Destiny, you know what I'm talking about, and I've got to get it done. And I haven't hit the solstice yet, and it won't be until Monday. But beside that, I'm fine. I can stop at any time. Next question, now.
Well, actually, we're going to get into that. Because I do want to touch on this. Part of it is because it's 2019. Unfortunately, there are people out there who aren't as nice and things like that. Talk about security. You kind of alluded to it before. Talk about security, how much of yourself you share. I mean, because we've got to have some self-care for ourselves here too.
Yeah. At least with, and I kind of saw this in podcasting back in 2004, 2005. We were all talking about sharing. It was all about sharing, about being spontaneous, being in the moment, share. And there was one podcast that I recorded, and I remember sharing it with Pip back in the day, and it was just me going on a hardcore rant about, that's why she was in the room. It was a hardcore rant about where I was in my career. And I listened to it, and I thought, I think this crosses a line. And I sent it to three trusted friends, and I said, "I'm about to make this live. What do you think?" And they all said the same thing. "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And I realized in that moment that there's some stuff where it's okay to go on mic with it, and there's somewhere it's just you want to keep that close to the vest. And the more you stream, the more you start creating content, the more you open yourself up, you're going to find out that yes, there are some very nasty people. So what do you not share? Well, you don't share things like, one time as a joke, I shared somebody's address, and the entire community freaked out, and I said, "Guys, look at the address."
Yeah.
It was Wrigley Field, which was a reach back to the Blues Brothers movie,
Blues
because
Brothers,
and then the chat was like, "Oh, okay, it's cool," but again, Twitch takes that very seriously, and I think what you should do is protect yourself. It's okay to tell people you've had a bad day at work. It's okay to share, but there does need to be some limitations, because you need time for yourself.
I made an observation through a streamer that I follow, and I was like, wow, that's really smart. So he built up a pretty large audience, and after a while, he just stopped making content. And every once in a while he would pop back in and he'd apologize for being away, but then he'd be gone again. And this went on for about a year. And then he kept his community though, because they loved him that much. And when he returned, he apologized for being away for so long, and he said, I'm going to be better about it. So for a few months, he was consistently making content again, and then he started disappearing again. And so some people were angry, some people teased him, but by and large, he kept his community. And then finally, it's he became self-aware enough to realize, hey, sometimes I just need a break.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just need to get away. And so now he's a lot better about saying, okay, I'm going to make content for a 3-month stretch, and then I'm taking a break, but then I'll be back. And I think that's really smart, because even I've never become a blogger because I'm wow, I'm going to have a consistent amount of content over this period of time, and I'm not getting paid for it. So it's going to be really hard for me to do. And it can be kind of overwhelming and stressful. And that's what he needs to do. And I think it's okay to say, I don't have to keep pushing myself to put stuff out there when I'm not physically and mentally able to do it.
Right.
I need to retool. And actually, T and I were talking about this a couple of days ago, very recently, and I'm not going to remember his name. There was a streamer who committed suicide. And he actually videoed his suicide letter. And he had been bullied in his chat. He had been bullied online. People were throwing clown emojis at him. And this particular streamer that I'm talking about, he came back from his break to actually talk about that. And I'm just wondering, and in fact, Pip had looked up the streamer, and she found 3 or 4 content creators who had committed suicide recently. And so I think it's very important to know what your limitations are. Yes, you do have a community, but if your community cares about you, they should care about you enough to let you be able to be you.
That's right.
And to take care of yourself.
It's no different than having, and this is the way I feel you should treat it. It's no different. You're bringing people onto your stream. It's no different. You're bringing them into your home. And do you want someone to act like a total jackass in your home? No. So what do? You either give them a timeout, or you kick them out of the house. And to me, that's the way you manage. That's the way you manage your stream. That's the way you manage. You have mods that will help do that, because they're the ones that are always coming to your stream.
Mods are extremely important.
Yeah, they will help. They will help you manage trolls. I do want to share one quick story. I know we're getting near the end. There's this, and then you've got Tiddly. And there's this one streamer named Tiddly, and that's the Tiddly. And Tiddly actually does do we keep this troll, or do we adopt this troll, or do we excommunicate the troll? And based on how the interaction goes with the troll, she will have her chat vote whether they were going to adopt him as a new pet or kick him out. A couple times they've adopted the troll, and now the troll's like, "Hi, Tids!" And they're like, "Hi! How's my favorite troll? I'm so good. F you! I got you!" It's ridiculous, but that's Tids in a nutshell. That is Tids in a nutshell.
Greg, you want to add that?
Yeah, that does, and I've seen that work for a few people. I have very, very low tolerance for trolls because I think it wastes time. I don't want to waste time. I want to spend time with people that I care about and that care about each other and sort of building things commonly. And I think we have a tendency to give too much air to trolls as it is. I find them tedious, uninteresting, and they can spend time with each other. I am interested in people who care about each other. So I have very low tolerance for that, and my mods know it. And if someone comes in and starts spewing stuff, I'm like, goodbye forever. I don't need you in here, because you have to remember that by the time they arrive and they've made the decision that I'm going to sit and spew racist whatever, that person has made so many bad decisions to get to that point that my going back and sort of reverse engineering, psychoanalyzing them is of no interest to me.
Well, and also the best communities become safe spaces.
That's exactly right.
And
that's,
you don't know,
right, yeah.
like you know some things about
Exactly.
people in your community, but you don't know everything. You don't know who's
Exactly.
marginalized. You don't know what trauma people do.
It's exactly right, and that's exactly right, and they need to know that you are taking them seriously. They will not say, I feel offended and hurt by what so-and-so has said.
Right.
They need to know that you will say that and say, this person is not a part of what we do here. And again, I define my community broadly, it should be said. So I want a welcoming and a diverse and a broad and a caring community of people, which ought to encompass most of us, right? Like most decent human beings, that's what they like to be a part of.
Yeah.
So we're talking about eliminating a pretty small, subset group, but a very loud subset group that gets, I think, too much attention. So the other thing too is that oftentimes there's a difference between the troll who comes on, and is throwing the rhetorical grenades, and are clearly just trying to get a rise out of people or be destructive, and people who are coming on and just don't quite read the room exactly right, and they're a little bit. Those people are different, and you can kind of work around them and sort of massage them into a different way. But people who come on and are immediately coming up with enormously hostile stuff, yes, not just for the benefit of, I don't want to deal with them, me, I don't want anyone else to be exposed to that longer than they have to be, because once the space is safe, then we are able to be vulnerable and share and grow collectively and do enormous things, great things with each other, because we know we're safe to do so. So a lot of safety is sort of established in that beginning.
I'll give you a choice. We can either do a couple of questions, or we can maybe discuss Ninja. So
Questions or Ninja?
Questions?
Chat, what do you think? Questions or talk about
Questions
Ninja?
or-
Which one?
I think we have some hands up, so I think we
All right.
have questions.
So I co-manage a gaming news site, and
All right.
we're trying to figure out how to use Twitch.
Okay.
Right now, we have one person who's dedicated to streaming like MMO stuff as she's reviewing it, but we're not really gaining any traction. We haven't really figured out how to crack this nut.
On sale at bookstores everywhere.
My follow-up question there would be, you're not, you're having trouble with the mechanics of being on Twitch, or just getting the followers on Twitch?
Well, like the mechanics are easy. That's easy to kind of figure out, because
Okay.
there's a lot of people who know how to do it, and we're experimenting with some of the tech and the software and stuff. What we're really trying to figure out is, I guess what we want to do on Twitch.
Okay.
And that really, it's up to you. In fact,
That's the thing. It's like
They want to know, what it's up to you, but I guess they want to know, and so what should that be?
Well,
Well,
actually, something that I kind of brainstormed just as you guys were talking
Okay.
and speaking more about like staying to your brand is there anything like a news program on Twitch?
Absolutely, there are.
Okay.
Yes,
So-
but I would say yes, but let me make a caveat. Yes, there is. There are several of them that are like that, actually. But I think the most successful ones are the ones that feel, this is similar to Twitter accounts. They're the Twitter accounts that people do that are affiliated with a given company, and people follow them because they're engaging and interesting, and it's the person Twitter. And then there's the focus group Twitter that clearly corporate has approved of that are terrible. And it doesn't matter how many random people around the world they pay to follow them, they're not a functional Twitter site, and everyone knows that they're fake. It's the same thing with Twitch. If you do a gaming news thing, right, and you're doing a gaming news thing in which you're talking about 3 people talking in a room about cool games that you like, that's one thing that can really build up an interest, because you're genuinely talking about games you'd want to talk about anyway. Or if you're playing a game, which I think is very valuable on Twitch, that you find interesting, and chatting about the implications of this game in the industry or whatever, that can be valuable. What you do not want to do is start imitating the Destructoids of the world that years ago made it because they were considered to be this sort of hip, new sort of thing, and then decided that they would monetize hip and new, and people abandoned them in droves. And I knew the people who ran the Destructoid channel, and when they were let go, the channel collapsed because people did not want to watch a focus grouped, business-suited version of the interesting things that they found valuable. So if you stick true to what you want to talk about, you and your people want to talk about, do that, and you will get traction over time, because people will want to see you talk about what you're passionate about.
And this is why I approach it. You mentioned Twitter. You mentioned it's the same on Twitter. It's the same in podcasting.
Right.
And I
Sure,
mean, yeah,
same
there
thing.
are dozens of Destiny podcasts out there, but you know what? None of them sound like Happy Hour from the Tower because we're a couple of knuckleheads. We're not the god tier players. We're just having a good time.
Yep.
But we're doing it with passion, and that's the thing. If you want to do that, if you want to do some live play demos, do live play demos. And there is a market for that. There's a section called Just Chatting if you want it to be loose and fancy free. If it's a formal talk, you actually have a section that's called Talk Shows and Podcasting. That's a directory that allows you to do that. You have a lot of options ahead of you. You have a lot of options. Whatever you do, just commit to it and do it because you want to. Do it
Well,
because you want to.
I've been
Yeah,
filing
podcast on the front, by the way.
I've been filing away ideas for a podcast, and it occurs to me that I could use.
You could do both. Why not? Double dip.
Okay, we had one more.
One more question.
Oh, yeah. I was just wondering, as a new streamer in 2019, how do you get noticed on Twitch? Like, how do you market yourself? Are you just playing
Fireworks
games
help?
hoping- What?
Fireworks help.
Yeah.
Honestly, that again, that's the hard part. Now, one of the things that I beg of you, and I say this in the book, the streamers will give me some lulls in chat for this. You do not go on someone else's stream and say, hey, I just followed you. Why don't you follow me? I'm about to go live. Please, God, don't do that.
Yeah, no.
Please don't do
Please
that.
don't be Amway, the Twitch channel.
Yeah.
Please, the love of God. I would also say you will find an audience, just like every new Twitch streamer finds an audience, over time, and often by hanging out with a few other channels that you enjoy, the way that Toya describes. And by doing that and by getting to be known by the community, they will gradually start to follow you also. It will take time, but there are new Twitch streamers starting all the time, and there is someone starting today that a year from now will be very successful on Twitch. It's just a matter of giving it time, having a consistent brand, and spreading out to other channels, not by, hey, look at me, but by just being a part of the community.
You're gonna have those days where you're gonna have zero audience, just power through, and network with
had
other.
that already.
Yeah, okay, fine. You're good.
I think we effectively used every last second.
Yeah! We'll be outside if you want to chat with us more about Twitch in general. But thank you all very much. Enjoy Gen Con. Thanks, Jen, for being here.
Thanks,
We
man.
did it. Thanks a lot, Kurt. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, I think your phone froze up there.
Yeah, my phone froze up. It sucks.
Well, I think it was only like the last 3 or 4 minutes though, Jason.
Yeah, it was.